Alright, problem number 4, palindrome permutation. Given a string, write a function to check if it's a permutation of a palindrome. Palindrome is a word or phrase that is the same forwards and backwards, like SAS. It's same forwards and backwards. And permutation is a rearrangement of letters. So, like if we have the string, for example, cat, TAC, ACT, ATC, TCA, and etc. are permutations of letters CAT or cat. So the palindrome does not need to be limited to just dictionary words. So our input is a string and our output is a boolean, and we want to see whether one of the permutations of our input is actually a palindrome. And we are actually ignoring spaces and capital letters for this. So first we have to convert everything to lowercase, and then we have to remove all spaces from our string. So our string would look something like this, and then we would have to count the characters, the unique characters. So we have 2 A's, 2 C's, 2 T's, and 1 O. So we will put the O in the middle, in the center, and then we will put the A's around that, and we will put C's around the A's, and then we will put T's around all of the other characters. And now we have a palindrome. So it seems like that the condition the condition to have a palindrome is to have, first of all, for solving this problem, we have to convert everything to lowercase, remove all spaces, and then count the number of characters. In order to have a palindrome, you have to either have all of our characters be even, or we can at most have one character that is odd. So with these two conditions should be met to have in order to one of our permutations to be a palindrome. Otherwise, if none of these two conditions are met, we will return false, which means none of our permutations are a palindrome. So I think with this we are ready to dive into the code. It seems like that from these three conditions, the most important one, how should we tackle this? Seems like the most important one is the third one and the first one, even though the second one is also important, I think. I don't know if space counts as a character or not, but we will remove all spaces for now. So first, let's comment out the call to the function for the previous practice and test out to see if our console is working. It is working. So now we can start writing our function. It's a public static function which returns a boolean. It is called, let's call it check polyperm, and it takes a string as an input. And let me make it bigger. So let's do the code first. So we want to convert all characters to lowercase and remove spaces. Then we want to count the number of each character, the total count of each character. I think we can use a hash map for this, just like previous examples, and then we will return false if more than 2 characters have odd count, and then otherwise we'll return true. So we return true by default unless we find out that something's not right. So let's use the string builder class. So we create a new instance of the string builder. Since strings themselves are not mutable in Java, we have to use a string builder to make modifications to our string. So I was hoping to find 2 lowercase as one of the methods of string builder, but it seems like it's not there. So let's do a quick Google search. It should be there. Right, seems like I'm reading the question. Let's take a look at the answer. So seems like that we have to call toString method first before calling toLowercase. So let's call toString, and then yeah, we have access to toLowercase. And is there any method for removing spaces? No, I don't see anything. Maybe we can use replace. So replace a char with another char. So space counts as a char, but empty space doesn't count as a char. So how can I remove spaces? Trim only removes trailing spaces, leading and trailing spaces, so that couldn't be it. What else? There is a replace all method. String builder. Yeah, it is using replace. Why can't I use replace? Can I typecast it to char? No. What else? It's using replace all, and it's using double quotes, so let's do that. Yeah, it seems to be working with double quotes. So I hope this works. Let's store the results somewhere, so I'm calling the instance of string builder just string builder, and then I'm storing the result of these methods in a modified string. So let's print out modified string and see what we get. So I'm calling the method and I'm passing it this string which has a capital letter and a space. Alright, seems to be working. No spaces, no capital letters. Now let's remove the console log and move to the next step. Count the chars using a hash map. Let's create a new hash map. The keys of this hash map are characters and the values are integers. These hash maps are basically like JavaScript objects. So for each character we create a key and we count the occurrences of each character inside that key, inside its respective key. So we loop through the string, the modified string, and we will check for, right, we don't want to put now, we will first check for the count of occurrences of each character to see whether that exists for a specific character that we are currently iterating over. And if it doesn't exists, we will assign the count to 0 for that character. Then when we are putting that character in our hash map, when we are creating the key for it, or we are incrementing the value of that key, we will add 1 to the count. So if it's the first run, it will get 0 plus 1, which is 1. If it's all the consecutive runs, it will get whatever number it is plus 1. So now we should have an object that has all the characters listed with their total number of occurrences in our string. So let's now just console log the hash map to see how it looks. Alright, it's exactly as we expect. Now let's figure out a way to count the total number of odd characters. There is a for each method, but I'm not sure how to use that. The values method seems to be useful. Let's print it out to see what it returns. It prints something like an array. So we can use arrays. We are only concerned with numbers at this point, with the counts at this point. We don't need the keys. So it seems like from IntelliSense I understand that it's returning a collection, and it should logically be a collection of integers. So it seems to be right. Now for each count in the collection of counts, we want to increment something. So let's create a byte number variable called number of odds and initialize it to 0. And if the count that we are currently iterating over is not even, let's add 1 to the number of odds. And if number of odds ever becomes greater than 1, let's return false, which means it would not ever be able to create a palindrome. None of the permutations of the modified string would return a palindrome. And now let's check our function. Let's test our function. So it returns a boolean. Let's call it result. And now let's console log the result. So for this string, as we expect, we get false. For the given string, get true, which is great. Now let's see, for string Coca-Cola we get false, and for string Coca-Cola we get true. Wonderful.